Ciao!
Yeah, and that's the Russian word for hello, which is representative of the film that we're going to discuss today, which is Elem Klimov's 1985 Come and See.
Come and see. And now we're saying it with this like, oh, come and see. But it's actually a super tragic film. I mean, it's very intense to watch. So we have like a happy tone, but it's not going to be a happy discussion.
It's been a big jump from Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, which, strangely enough, when we finished watching the film, one of the first reviews that we saw was someone saying that they just watched Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse and that this was a big leap in mood, which is the same thing as we did on this podcast.
It's true. Not in real life, because I watched a couple of films in the between.
Yeah, it's been a while, but effectively it's been linked. And we have a camera now, so if you're on Spotify, you are still listening to us, but if you're on YouTube, you should also
our faces.
You should also be able to see us, which, lucky you, to be honest. So I guess we should start by summarizing, by talking a bit about the film, because some people might not have seen it.
Which is the third of the list. That's
it's extremely high.
It's extremely high.
There's no risk of it. There's no risk of it going out of the list.
No, that's definitely not. And in fact, it has 4.4 stars rating.
So it's rated on Letterboxd. Yeah,
it's quite high, and we understand why.
The third highest rated film of all time on Letterboxd. It was the second for a long time. It was even the first, I think, for a while, and then it dropped down to third. I've seen it 3 times.
For me, it was the first time.
Yeah. So to summarize, I imagine lots of people have seen it. I imagine also some haven't. I think it's the least seen of the 3 films we've talked about so far, probably.
Yes, absolutely.
This is a Soviet anti-war film that came out in the 1980s. The director, Elem Klimov, based it partially on a series of written recollections from Belarusian soldiers and people who lived in Belarus during the Second World War, during which period Belarus, how do you call it? Belarus. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Belarus. Sorry.
85%.
It's referred to as Belarus in the film because it's in Russian, so I kind of lost myself there. Belarus was occupied by Nazi Germany, who committed terrible atrocities. 300,000 people were forced into slave labor, 100,000 more were killed, and as the title card at the end of the film says, 600 villages were burnt to the ground or completely destroyed and erased. And I think it's the Eastern Front of the war in general is not something that we necessarily see much about.
It's true, especially of Belarus. I don't think we know much about it in general, and not even in the Nazi context. I mean, in the Second World War context. So it is also interesting in this sense, and I think maybe also partially its high rating of the film. The high rating of the film is also due to the fact that many people watching it thought, "Oh, cavolo, we didn't know about the situation of Belarus." I thought so.
Yeah.
Even if it in the end is a big country, but yeah.
And yeah, for sure. And I think there's so the film follows the story of a young boy. We don't know how old he is, but he looks.
But the actor was 14 when they started shooting,
and he looks no older than 15. And his name is Floria. And at the beginning of the film, he enlists to be part of the kind of Belarusian resistance. I guess.
Exactly. Yeah, there was resistance.
And they have like a militant group in the forest, for whom he's like right at the bottom of the food chain. And then he ends up getting left behind because someone else has rotten boots, and so he has to swap. Being the least important soldier, he has to swap his boots. And that's where the film kind of starts from. And from then on, it kind of follows him over the course of a couple of days, and he has a kind of traumatic few days in which he witnesses horrible things.
And his face ages so quickly and so strongly and so intensely, and that's also very interesting. And he's a great actor, I think. It's true. I read like a couple of comments in the reviews that were saying maybe at the beginning of the film his delivery of the lines was not the best, and I might agree. But his facial expressions, the terror in his eyes, oof, I think that's so well made.
Yeah, I don't know about his delivery at the beginning of the film. I thought it was mostly pretty good. I also think
for sure.
that
And maybe not like as good as the rest of his performance, I would say.
yeah. I mean, I think in general, the first like hour and a half of the film, I've seen this film 3 times, and the first hour and a half, I always kind of forget what happens because I only remember what happens in the last hour or so.
Yeah, because somehow also the first part is a bit surreal in some moments. For example, there is when at the beginning, we saw he's left behind, and then he got distracted also because he meets this girl, Glasha, and they start having like a peculiar conversation. They start by laughing, and I understand that because okay, you're so stressed out, you want to, let it go. You find someone with whom you can share this stress in this release of the tension that comes out through laughing. So that's interesting. I can get that, but then they start to have like a conversation, and it's a bit surreal for me. It's true. And also the scenes that follow, the images when they like scroll. I don't know if scroll is the right word. The trees, like they move the trees to get the water of the rain, wash them somehow. It's a bit dreamy, and
but I think taking into account the fact that these characters, even at the start of the film, are in a situation of intense stress, and you can see that somehow they're always on the verge, understandably, of emotional breakdown. Absolutely. And that's the case basically throughout the whole film. And it just gets to a point where the characters are suffering so much and enduring so much that it just becomes, it's unimaginable, really. I mean, I think the context in which I discovered this film was that it was often cited and framed as the most horrifying film ever made, or the most depressing film ever made. And I remember the first time I watched it, for the next like day or so, I was kind of, you end up like under this cloud because it's so, it really has to be seen to be believed. It's pretty grim. And I wrote down like,
yeah, we took some notes
about The Pianist, which is Polanski's Holocaust film, which I've also seen, and it obviously covers some of the same themes, and I think it also features on the top 250 list, so we will talk about it sometime.
That's true.
And for me, that film, for example, even though it has some horrible moments, it doesn't come anywhere near to Come and See. For me, Come and See is by far the scariest, most horrifying film I've ever seen, and not in that you're on the edge of your seat, but just that you don't want to watch it at all. It's
but at the same time you're attached to the screen, like in some
moments
you're captivated. I didn't want to lose any frame at the beginning more, but then when especially there was a very long scene where the Nazis are in a town, in a village, and they are being Nazis, and without doing too much spoiler. By the way, also you find the whole film for free on YouTube, because it's copyright free now.
There's a lot of Russian films. It's worth saying that if you're into Soviet cinema, a lot of films made in the Soviet Union, including a lot of Tarkovsky's films, are fully available in HD on YouTube. That's Stalker's there, Mirror's there. I don't know if Solaris is there, but it might be, and Come and See is there.
In any case, and there is this like super long scene, very hard to watch, but at the same time you want to watch it, and really, yes, you're captivated. You can't. It's like you're there also because you need to watch it somehow. you want to understand every little detail of what is happening on screen and of every character. What are they doing? How are they behaving? I think every little detail becomes super important and super loud in a certain way. And that's something that I found extremely interesting. And it's connected to what I've been told before watching this film, by Clem especially, which is, yes, that I would have been a bit traumatized by this film. And because I asked, oh, will I cry a lot? And he said, not that type of traumatizing experience, more like of you become a bit maybe numb. Or
I don't think numb is the right word, but I think you're horrified more than sad, because it's just constant misery. I mean, there's
and it's true, because in many moments you didn't want to cry, you just wanted to be lucid while things were happening. In a way, also maybe because you were in the shoes of Floria, and therefore you had to be lucid in that moment if you wanted to survive somehow. That was the only way. And I managed to cry in the end, but more in the same way, in a certain way, that Floria and Glash at the beginning were laughing, because I needed to release the tension and I have accumulated during the first maybe 2 hours of the films, because it's also a long film, 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And that reminded me also of Jean Dielmon, and I thought, okay, in this case, it's another context in which it makes sense that it lasts. I'm referring actually especially to the big scene in the town, in the village.
Yeah.
Because you need to really go through every little moment, every step.
You have to want it to end in the same way that the characters want it to end. It's like lingering, and even in that scene, there's some moments when not much happens. It's quite slow at some points, and that's part of the horror, is that you just wish it would just be over.
It's so important, and you wait, You're like, what is happening again? Still, or okay, you have the time to even to maybe start elaborating what just happened. You as Floria, especially, but at the same time, you can't too much, because if you start to elaborate, then it's horrible, because that would be, I mean, the end. It would be self-destruction somehow. Not very self, but it's so devastating.
And I was thinking about the sound in this film, which has a really strangely horrible quality. It's very well made, not horrible in that sense, but it's quite horrifying. Even from the beginning of the film, there's the very first scene, which is probably the most chill scene in the film, which is Floria kind of digging up a gun from a mud field, and an old farmer telling him not to do that.
And the child pushing him to do that.
Yeah, and even in that scene, the voices of the characters are so horribly rasping.
Ну что я говорил?
Especially of the child.
That it instantly gets under your skin. It's got this unnerving effect that even when nothing obviously horrible is happening, you just have this sense that horror's on the way, or horror's never far away in this film at all. Even in the downtime between big moments, let's say, the horror's still very much there. The misery that all the characters in the film are suffering is never really absent, and I think the sound is a big part of that. And also,
extremely, I think it's one of the main characters again.
So many disturbing noises, and I've noted down one example is at one point, again in the first few scenes, a Soviet soldier comes into their house, into Floria's family's house, and his mother offers the soldier some milk, and he drinks the milk, and he makes this absolutely horrible slurping sound.
Молочка кисленького. Лупсики.
Good.
Which was it's so perturbing that I felt the need to write it down and to note it, because I think it's one of those, again, it's absolutely effective on behalf of the film. It's disturbing, everything about it is unnerving, gets under your skin,
It's true, and not only that, but also he takes the space, both physically, because also he's very I don't know if imponent is a word, but he's
Bizarre,
there,
sure.
massive, and taking his, like somehow occupying the whole kitchen in that moment. You see only him, he's so big. And yes, also with the sound, with the noises, he takes the space, he takes the silence that was there before. They were even somehow, sometimes even like whispering, sometimes screaming, but sometimes whispering. And he was like there, making everybody be silent when he was finishing his milk. And that is true. And also, sticking to the topic of the sounds, that reminded me so much of the zone of interest. And I thought probably the director took a lot from Come and See, because it's really, it's so important. It's always there. Also here, it's always there. For example, even the airplane that passes regularly, because also this, like, it's okay, the constant, what do you stick to? The constants of the war, which is okay, the plane that always passes, and that's your reference point. Okay, it's horrible, but at least, I don't know, it's maybe a security that you have in a certain way, something to hang on. And that's I think that's also somehow gives you very much the feeling of how it is to be in war, even if, of course, it's not understandable.
Yeah, and to go back to what you said about the zone of interest taking inspiration, I think Spielberg also, for both Schindler's List and Saving Private Ryan, I think Spielberg took, he watched on C and he screened it and he took inspiration from it in the making of those films. And I think also, like, nearly every war film has taken that's come out since takes something from Come and See, although the effect is very seldom replicated. I've never seen another war film that has this, that is as dismally depressing as this, to be honest. I mean, it's hard to, off the top of my head anyway, I can't really think of one.
I think I watched mostly maybe documentaries that could have given me the same feelings. Now I can't really think about any title because I really tried to log on Letterboxd, but it was like many years ago. Because then I had like a kind of a refuse to keep watching a physical refusal, yes, to keep watching this type of films or documentaries because it was too much. But certainly there was a lot. But I think also maybe a lot was, I wouldn't say maybe romanticized, even if it's on context, absolutely, but a bit, in a way that maybe Spielberg would have done.
I think the documentary form there's always more of an escape for the viewer than something like Come and See, because it can always move away from the horror towards...
It is. Even the fact that it's in black and white, for example.
And there's many horrible documentaries.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah, it's a different form.
But also, you know what? It's also interesting that, for example, okay, on this list, the 250 top list, there are many films about the Second World War, and all a bit different and from these different perspectives, but mainly, I'd say, focused on the Jewish genocide. And this one is a bit different in this sense. There is also The Life is Beautiful by Benigni, that traumatized me a lot. And now
Glorious Bastards, even. And Register. But...
yeah, maybe same topics. I don't know if it's...
But it's true, and there's anti-Semitism does feature in this film, but that's not the main issue of the day.
It's on the side.
It's about the extermination of the Slavic people of Eastern Europe, and about the horrors of war in general. Because what I want to say is, what's truly I wanted to cite two specific moments which always marked me with this film, and I think they're, for me, the most horrifying moments of the film. So I will cite them. I don't want to spoil, because I think both of them are somehow spoilers. So I will give you 3, 2, 1 seconds to skip. But now you didn't do it. So if you're still here, you've either seen the film or you don't care about the spoilers. But there's one brilliantly effective moment where Floria and Glasha are running away from his village, and she turns back for 1 second and sees
I see.
a pile of bodies lined up, which presumably includes Flora's family and
Yeah.
the whole village, basically.
For sure, she believes so.
And I think what's brilliantly made about this is that it's so fleeting and quick, and the camera doesn't linger on it at all, and the characters aren't able to process it, and neither are we. And I think that's what war is like, is that where tragedy is something banal and mundane, and you're not able to have the time to process it, and there's no sentimental music, and she's not able to cry, she has to keep running, and it's only there for a second, and I think that's so brilliant that it's just... Somehow for me it's more effective than if he had discovered it and it had been accompanied with some sad music.
Yeah.
Because it's really horrifying, that sequence.
Yes, true.
And I think the scene towards the end where two Nazis kind of pose for a picture with Florian, hold a gun to his head, and then don't even bother to kill him. I think, again, it's horror. It's the fact that he's not even worth the bullet that would kill him, and you're not even really relieved for him because he's been put through so much at that point.
Yeah, in a certain way, you think even maybe he's like, I don't want to die, but at the same time, maybe the best thing is to die, because there is also another scene where you can see clearly he wants to die. He wants to not to die. He wants to disappear. He doesn't want to exist anymore. Which is when he puts his head in the mud.
Yeah.
And it's understandable. And yet the people around him in this part, in that part, he's still surrounded by people he more or less knows. And they're like saying, no, what are you doing? We have to react, and they react, and that's also incredible. Like he just understood that his family probably has been horribly killed, and yet, as you said, like he didn't even have the time to process. He maybe was starting to process, but there was no time because he had to react. Because I mean, life is like so. Flammable.
There's no downtime in this film. There's no moment where death isn't 1 second away. You know, you constantly live. The characters constantly live with that burden, and the film is effective enough that we the viewers also live with that burden for the duration of the film. And I think also again, we're gonna spoil the last scene. I think it's important to talk about the last scene, in which the situation is reversed. So we've witnessed all these Nazi atrocities, and then the Soviet militants have captured a group of Nazis, some of whom are the same ones who were committing the atrocities just before. And I don't know about you. I will ask you, but for me, the fact is that for all intents and purposes, you should at least have some feeling of revenge, or some feeling of these people deserve it, and therefore I don't feel sorry for them, I don't feel bad for them. But you don't, because the film is so miserable, so intensely miserable, that it's just more suffering. And you see the suffering both of the Soviet people who are face to face with the people who've killed their children and their families, and you see the Nazis, and I think some of them are not German, some of them are Ukrainian militants who joined up with the Nazis.
Or in any case, yes,
Eastern European militia.
They can even, they speak the
they
language.
speak, Russian, I guess.
So that's Russian.
And I think that, because obviously they're desperate for their lives, and they're all making up excuses as to why they shouldn't be killed, and it's just horrible. Again, because it shows the real horror of war, that even in this moment where at least you should feel a bit vindicated, or they should feel vindicated, you see it's not that. And you see Floria still horrified because he's still having to see people desperate for their lives and who will be killed. And I think it's not shown as a moment of victory at all. At least that's how I interpreted it. I don't know about you.
No, I agree. Absolutely, it's not victory. And also that, I don't know, I think also they're a bit overwhelmed with violence. They want to, I think they should, on a moral way, in terms of, as you were saying, they burned alive our families, our children. There was one soldier that said, my children were in there, and you gave the order to keep the children there. So they want to kill. I mean, this revenge feeling is you have to have it in a certain way. But they were so tired. I think they were super exhausted, overwhelmed with feelings and stress and fear and I don't know, so many things that you don't have the energies to do it. You don't want to do it anymore. Do you want to keep violating people's lives, human lives? Or do you want to keep destroying what at the beginning was your land and your people, even if they're not your people? But do you want them to suffer the same things you're going through? I feel like I interpret it as it was too much also for them to. It's so horrible what they went through that they didn't really want to impose it onto someone else, even if they wanted to, because they were horrible. And so many times I thought, okay, I hope now they will destroy their heads, and I don't know. And at the same time thinking, okay, they're also human. They are somewhere really, really far from being humans in a certain way, or extremely human. But I don't know, yes, what do you want? Do you want them to do the same? No. It's war, like everybody is suffering so much.
Yeah, and I think it's very much not like you won't get any catharsis from the revenge. It's not like that Tarantino revenge motif where at the end of the film, the victim gets revenge and therefore somehow expels their ghosts and is able to move on with their life. That's very clear that that's not the case here. The trauma will continue, and any revenge taken will just be more suffering and more death and more misery and more trauma for these characters, and that's never shied away from. That's very clearly shown.
But in fact, because spoiler again, at the end of this discussion about what do we do we kill them, are we not killing them, blah blah blah, in the end they kill them. But that's, as you were saying, no relief. But then we see Floria killing, destroying, decapitating in a certain way, the picture of in the mud. And that is somehow, in a certain way, probably a relief moment, a moment of relief. Probably.
I'm not sure whether you're allowed to say that name on YouTube. I think it might be banned. We can beep it out. But you know who we're talking about. But yes, sorry.
The Nazi boss. The head of the party.
Exactly.
The most horrible, yeah.
But yeah, sorry. The camera died for 1 second, but we're back. But yeah, no, absolutely. And that final scene, which I've seen some analysis of the film that kind of compares it to the kind of baby, you know who dilemma. It feels like fucking in Harry Potter. You know who, but anyway, you know who we mean. Because at one point it kind of cuts back to pictures of him as a kid, of him, the Nazi. And Floria continues to shoot into this painting because somehow he's expelling all the grief and trauma he's had by emptying his rifle. And it's the first time he fires a shot in the film because he always carries this rifle that he can never really use and he doesn't know how to use. And then the first time he fires is right at the end. And another thing we want to talk about is the slightly surrealist aspect of the film, which is represented by some strange animals which appear at different moments. So there's a heron that kind of appears constantly throughout the beginning of the film. I think it's a heron. And it kind of follows the characters around. It's like almost dream-like. It's like the unicorn from Blade Runner. You know, it kind of comes, if you've seen Blade Runner, which you haven't. You know, it's kind of impossibly there, and it follows them around for a bit.
Yes, it's true. But yes, also a peculiar moment, and it's sometimes like I hypothesized. No, sometimes I also thought it might have been like I had an hypothesis. I thought it was like I don't know, like a model created by the Nazis to spy on because it's there, like it's a bit of a threatening. It's true that also like in that context you also feel the nature being a bit hostile.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's part of it.
It's
Somehow.
it's not a nice landscape.
No, it's not
It's a
welcoming.
cruel landscape.
Yeah. But yes, that and then also the cow, to be honest.
Yeah.
And in that sense, I read a review and I thought, yeah, I agree, because I thought the same for the land mostly, which is because there is at the beginning like a scene where they are bombing the wood, and I thought, did they do it for real? Because I don't know, I feel bad like if you see trees jumping in the air and like a forest being very much ruined. And the same was for the cow. Spoiler, the cow dies in a very slow death, and she dies for real. And I don't know,
there's a big question there
Yeah,
about the way in which
ethical.
animals are treated.
Yeah, exactly. And some people were also wondering about the actors.
I think in general the actors had a rough time on the shoot. The main actor lost a lot of weight. I read that he said that he nearly died on a few occasions because they were using live ammunition for some reason when they were shooting the film, so it was going just over his head. And I think to make a film like this, it kind of has to be an intense shoot. It's not going to be an easy ride in any case. So
no, and he was 15, I guess, 16 in the last part.
Yeah.
When he came out.
It's true that those ethical questions remain. But I think that doesn't distract from the film's brilliance. It's just a side note that is worth considering.
Yeah, to question, like, I think since the final result is so good and so well made and so effective, somehow it's more okay than if it was just, I don't know, like regular normal war film and that says, oh, war is bad.
So, and finally we've changed topic a bit, but going back to the animals, there's a slow loris which belongs to the Nazi, one of the Nazi generals, or the highest ranking Nazi that we see in the film, and it's again extremely strange. It stays on his shoulder.
It's taken care of.
It's almost unreal. It's like this exotic animal from a different part of the world that shouldn't be there.
And again, a parallelism between Nazis being not part of that environment.
Exactly. So obviously some symbolism there. If anyone has any theories as to the symbolic nature of these animals, please share them with us.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
It's one of those films in which the more you can understand, the better it becomes.
And I also think it's one of those films that you don't necessarily want to recommend to people, because I think there's some people for whom this film is too much. And I don't think you should watch it. I mean, if you are not into this type of film, or you feel like you're not ready for something deeply depressing, this is a very affecting film. And it's not something to be watched lightly. It's going to put you in a very strong mood. It's going to be an intense watch. Worth it, I think.
Yes.
But don't watch it if you're in a bad mood or if you're not ready for it, I'd say.
Or if you think it can even traumatize you a bit. Because if you're... Yeah, I mean, it's violent.
Yeah, it's quite horrific.
It's horrific. Even if then also, I mean, you see some things, but it's not like blood for you. I don't know, like it's not
that's not graphic.
Onto
it's
you.
Not graphic.
It's not super graphic. It's not splatter. It's
not at all. But it's horrifying.
Yeah, I mean, it's a portrait of the horror of the war. Yes, in general, that's absolutely. And maybe the most horror thing is the psychological part again. But even, and I thought I would go back again to the scene with the Nazis in the town, in the village. You really see the role of the uniform, like how that divides people, but not only, especially how it allows abuses to the most horrifying one to be accepted, encouraged, and praised even. Because of course, like you have your community, your pack, and you push all your violence that you don't know how to elaborate onto people that are people. You see they are people, and you go beyond. It's so inhumane and yet superhuman, and again, the banality of the evil.
Yes. Yeah.
And that, I think, is super clear, and it's super horrifying. It made me think a lot about the Abu Ghraib prison and situation.
I think to tie into that, I mean, that idea of being extremely human, I completely agree with, and I think that it's easy for us watching this film to kind of say, oh, you know, it was in the past, horrible, but kind of distant. But I think there's still instances today, documented instances, specifically in Palestine and Gaza, of atrocities happening, of these bombings happening, of
these noises
people being tortured, people suffering in inhumane ways. And I think
food that you can't find.
Because I think this film shouldn't just be dismissed as a historical artifact. It's a film about the violence of the oppressor on the oppressed, and that violence is still occurring today in many different contexts. It's not unique at all. I mean, the scale of the violence committed by Nazi Germany in the Second World War was massive, but that type of violence is not unique to that point of history. And that cruelty shouldn't just be dismissed as a matter of the past. I think that's very important.
And this is connected, I think, also to not necessarily like the portrayal of showing this film, but what is shown on a daily life to people. And I'm thinking about, Clem, I think you already did it in the last episodes, but you often refer to films such as Top Gun as very US propaganda, no? And it's so true. And you can see it so much through this. And you're like, okay, so every day we are bombed with these superhero films in any type. Like you can then superhero with different connotations. But in any case of, but we need to go to war. War is actually not so bad. Or, yes, let's romanticize war. Or, all these things. Oh, yes, it's bad, but only for the victims that are not really the victims, that are actually for who is portrayed as the victim, that is often, the US. And they're actually the first one who go and destroy entire populations. So I'm thinking, like, how much we have to really, really be careful when we watch this type of films and even medias in general, because this should be shown. This is like something that make you think I absolutely don't want war to happen in any way.
And again, as we said, this is based on true stories. The barn event was based on the recollection of a man who was offered the chance to escape by the Germans, and he left his wife and children behind to be burnt to death, because they told him, if you leave your children, you're free to go, as happens in the film. And I think this is where, whenever you see a war film which focuses on bravery, heroism, honor, patriotism, and glorifies all these things, I think that's already a sign of, be careful, because this is what war's about, these horrors, these unimaginable horrors, and living with that fear every single day.
Yeah.
I think the Eastern Front of World War II is a specifically and rarely violent war, but being under threat of death every single day, and these kids are like 14 years old, it's just unimaginable. Yes. And I think that is too rarely shown, that aspect of horror, of the really unimaginable, is not often shown enough. And I think Come and See corrects that and it's, as people always call it, the best anti-war film ever made, because it's once you've seen it, you never ever want to be in the situation of any of the characters.
No. And it's interesting also because at the beginning the mom doesn't want him to go to war or to join the resistance, and he wants to. Yeah. But you can see he's so unaware. He's smiling, and then you never see him smiling in the same way again, or smiling in general. Somehow.
He wants to fight for his country.
Yeah, exactly. Also, he's like, all my friends are doing it, so I will do it too, of course. Without this unawareness or this being pure and naive. and then you have to grow up in 2 weeks, so you become
Not
completely.
even 2 weeks. I think the film's set over maybe a couple of days, I think.
I think a bit more. I don't know, but in any case, yes,
Yeah.
it's a super short time, and then you can't.
Yeah.
No, it's horrible, and
But brilliantly made.
brilliantly made.
And
yes.
resonant now and always, I think.
Absolutely. Even if you're saying no, but I don't care. I mean, it's not touching me. It will touch you. It will come to you, and I think this is also something that this film reminds you of. If you're in war, it doesn't matter if you're in the most unknown village. They will come to you. If it's even isolated, maybe even better. I can do more atrocities on you, and that's, I think, something to bear in mind too.
I think also the overwhelming sense is that all the characters we're seeing on screen, you don't sense an escape for any of them. There's no, it's not like one of those kind of. It's not like a Vietnam War film, even, where there's always a possibility of being shipped back to the States, and which, it still could be a lifetime of trauma. But here, there's nothing even close to that escape. It's
Only that.
either going to be death tomorrow, the next week, and if somehow miraculously you survive, it's a lifetime of trauma of having seen the worst things imaginable.
No, exactly. Is that life? I don't know. Maybe it's like, okay, keep surviving, and somehow you feel maybe even you owe it to your dead family members.
No, yeah, absolutely, and also in the this film is only a fraction of only shows a fraction of the horror that these characters will have lived in already. After the end of the film, you're already thinking, like, how can you go on after this? It's
no, it's something
horrible.
extremely horrible. It's
But
true.
brilliantly made.
Brilliantly made.
Should we wrap up?
And one last thing, the vocabulary. And I thought it was interesting, the switch to German of some people, and non-access to German to some others. So always, there is an invader,
Colonizer,
and you have to adapt to them. And again, also to go back also to the animals and combine language and animals. Rats is such a word, is so used, and it's so typical again, the humanization, and then also poor rats, to be honest, at the same time. And when you feel like, okay, also the cow is this beautiful resource for food, and it's also so unimportant, and it can become so important. I don't know, it's like, I like also that they show us different nuances of maybe a specific subject. Like in this case, okay, the cow, that it can be the least important for example, the Nazis, who they have their food. There is a beautiful scene, when there is a Nazi woman who is eating lobster in a truck.
Yeah.
Like, what?
While watching the entire village burn inside the
alive.
barn. Yes.
Yeah, it's.
Yeah.
And yet, for some people, like a cow, it's
the difference between life and death.
See, the precariousness and.
Yes, but that was our 4th episode. It was a pretty intense film.
It's true. Worth watching.
So maybe
really.
we're still under the cloud of Come and See.
Yes.
But definitely worth watching. Thoroughly recommended.
Yes.
We don't know which film we'll talk about next.
No. Maybe directed by a woman. Who knows?
Of which there aren't many.
There aren't many at all. That's so terrible. But also on our Instagram sometimes, and even now on YouTube Shorts, we're trying to publish also some films that we think should be in the 200.
Yeah, we're making more film content. We're expanding our ways.
Yeah, exactly. But some that I think, or one of the two, or both, think they should at least be, if usually not in the top, at least at the bottom of the list. Switch with some too, to be honest. Okay. In any case, yes, important themes, and I'm glad when it's at the top of the list.
Yeah, and it's so effective and affecting. I mean, you really, you can't. It's an unforgettable and deeply disturbing experience. There's a fly buzzing around my head all the time.
He's
But yeah, I guess that's basically it.
Yeah, exactly. If you have any thoughts, again, like if some interpretations, especially think of the heron, I would say
that would be interesting.
That I would like a lot. And
in general, your thoughts about the film, whether you liked it. I imagine most people at least appreciated it and were moved by it. Because like is a big word for this type of film. I don't know.
It's true. In fact, there were also a couple of reviews that were saying, I don't even know how to review this film.
Yes.
It's a lot. And it's, I mean, again, like it's an important theme. You can't really...
It's brilliantly made, but it's not a film that you say, it's my comfort film that I watch every week. It's far from that. It's something you really don't ever want to watch again once you've seen it.
See, and it goes a bit beyond also what we can, beyond what the cinema in, like, let's analyze these technical aspects.
Yeah, exactly.
Which are actually super cool because I like them a lot for what I could have got. But it's not, that's not the point of the film.
No.
Even if, again, they are very effective, they help a lot.
Yeah. That's what makes it so effective, but it's not what sticks with you, I think.
No.
In this case. But I think that's why it's perhaps so highly rated, as it's so, it makes you feel. And that's something.
And it makes you feel also, one thing, the solidarity among the same community, because you can see also that at some point Floria is a bit lost and he's saved somehow by a farmer who was actually, Floria was stealing his cow, not his horse, and the farmer decided to help him and say, no worries, stay with me, I'll help you, you'll be my grandchild, I'll tell you this is blah blah blah, this blah blah, this is blah blah. So the solidarity that is still there, because I think that's also a very important part of the war scenario.
Yeah.
So that's
about as close as it gets to being a feel-good film. And even then, it's not. I don't think, but it's true, and that is shown.
Yeah.
But anyway, we've talked for a long time, probably
51 minutes.
But it was a very special experience. I thoroughly recommend the film. If you haven't seen it, if you have, you probably know what we're talking about, and you can probably understand.
It's true. If not, you can watch it and then come back here.
Exactly.
And
re-listen. Once you've watched it, you can re-listen and say, now I understand what they're talking about.
Yeah, it's true. And then you can say, actually, I don't really agree on that. Or, yes, I didn't think about that.
Exactly.
And then you can write it.
All right. Bye-bye.
Ciao. Bye. Thank you.